My bad, I'm muted. I need y'all to keep your cameras and microphones off for me, please, so it won't mess with my bandwidth. But welcome and thank y'all for coming. I'm not ready yet. I still have about 4 minutes. And so I'm just trying to get everything set up. Do me a favor and type your names in the chat box for me. But I also don't let me forget, y'all, to take a picture of my the gallery that shows my guests. I keep forgetting to do that. And they keep reminding me that I need to take a picture of my presentation attendees. Hey, Makia, Sister Thompson, Sierra, if you'll jump in at some point, I'm sure. Okay, we have about a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. This is the screen that I want. Before y'all log off at the end, don't log off yet so I can make sure that I get a picture of my screen with everybody's names on it, because I keep forgetting to do that and turn that in with my the chat attendance is fine, but they also want to see the pictures with the names on it, which is fine with me. I just keep forgetting to do it. But when y'all get a chance, something new that they've added in the chat box, I posted a link at the top. They're asking for participants' opinions and everything on the presentation that you watch. So at any point, you can click that link in, or you can wait till the end when it's over and click that link, because it'll pop up in a browser screen. So even if I end the presentation, click that link beforehand, before I hit end, and we all leave, and it'll pop up in the browser screen and you can complete the form. Just your opinion on the presentation, if there are any specific topics that you want to hear. And I live in the Lake 800 link community. It's going to ask you who I am and where I live. You know, so I live in the 800 link community, which should be the very first community at the top of the list. We have a couple of minutes. Need to be able to minimize this screen. I got a screen open that you guys can't see. I need to kind of minimize it, but it's fine. Got about 45 seconds, I think, and we'll get started. It's not going to be too long today. Probably about 45, 50 minutes, unless you guys have questions, and then we can go as long as we need. But now it'll end at 1 like it did last week. Y'all noticed that the presentation cut off right at 1. I didn't realize that actually happens. So we got to make sure that we are done at 1, or the presentation is literally going to disconnect on us. All righty, here we go. Good afternoon. This is Dr. King. I am here at 800 Link Community Resident Educator, giving you a presentation today on the best communication methods to use for the messages that you are trying to convey. That tends to be an issue with many, you know, in the age of the internet, social media, texting and emailing. People don't realize that depending on the message you're trying to get over, or the message you're trying to relay, or, you know, even if you're at work, you know, managers don't realize there are certain messages, there are certain methods and communication methods that you just don't want to use, because the message is not going to be received and receptive the way you want it to. And a lot of it is because, you know, tones and things like that do not translate well, you know, with certain communication methods. So without further ado, let's get started. All right. Once again, keep your microphones off unless you have a question for me, and your cameras off so it won't buffer. because for whatever reason, my presentations tend to do a lot of buffering. As every presentation, I have to let you know who I am. It's part of my requirement, which is perfectly fine as well. I am Dr. Bridget King. Split it this week. If y'all noticed from the last weeks, I've kind of broken my personal introduction up into 3 sections. So personally, I am a 34-year resident of Duncanville, Texas. Have lived in the 800 Link community for 18 years this month, as a matter of fact. I am a wife and a mother and a graduate of Duncanville High School. Educationally, I have a bachelor's degree in psychology from the University of Texas of the Permian Basin, a master's degree in organizational management from the University of Phoenix, as well as an education doctorate in sports management from North Central University. Those that know me know I am very big with servant leadership. So my servant leadership roles are that I have 25 plus years working in corporate America in various industries, 12 years working in higher education, teaching business, management, leadership, human resources, social sciences, humanities, motivation, and professional development courses. I also have 12 years coaching grassroots girls basketball for the Lady Panthers Girls Basketball Association. And add a little new information this week. I have 12 years working as a parent volunteer for Duncanville ISD in different capacities, chaperoning, coming to class, reading to the kids, when they have the annual, not meet the teacher, but the professional things like bring a parent to school day or something like that. I help out with those things as well. I've served as president and vice president of PTA in Duncanville ISD, and then served in various roles for various sports leagues in the area. I don't even coach soccer, but I've been on the soccer board for the Lancaster Soccer Association and some different other community sports boards I've sat on over the years. All right, what TI community pillars does this presentation this week? Remember, we have 5 pillars with TI communities that we try to focus on. I'm an educator. I'm the resident educator, or one of the resident educators over here. So mine will always have an education pillar attached to it. And then for me, as I always say, with education comes community building. So you will always see these 2. You may see additional pillars added as to what I'm focusing on for that week, but it would always be education and community building. And then important for this presentation focuses on the professional side of communication. However, some slides will touch on personal communication as well and when needed. I am trying to move okay, there we go. I'm trying to slide over my gallery with you guys' faces on it so I can see my slides better. There we go. Quick data. As each week, I always ask at least one question or 2 to get some information on how people, information on the topic for the week. So this week, we're talking about methods of communication. So I had 2 questions this week. The first question is, what method of communication do you prefer best when communicating with others? I had 26 people answer this survey, and 62 of that 26%, which was 16 people, said they prefer face-to-face communication, which is a form of verbal communication. 5 say that they prefer texts and memos, which is a form of written communication. We had 12%, which are 3 people that prefer using phones, phone calls, telephone, be it landline or text, or cell phones, which is another form of verbal communication. And then at the end, 2 people, which is 8%, said they prefer email. And I was actually kind of shocked with that because most people I know prefer to do texting over face-to-face or phone calls. So, but that's actually, like I said, I do this to get the data, and it's very interesting information. Find out some things about your friends. And then the second question is, what method of communication do you think has the most potential to relay the wrong tone more than any other message? Hold on just a second. Excuse me. 15% or 15 people out of the 26, which was 58%, said that they feel that texts and memos are the primary ways to relay and give the wrong tone in a message. 5 each said either using email or just using social media. There are some people that just don't communicate at all unless it's via social media. And then 1 person said that face-to-face verbal communication has the most potential to relay the wrong tone, which is funny to me. There's so much involved with face-to-face communication. And then what is the definition of communication? Communication is the imparting or interchange of thoughts, opinions, or information by speech, writing, or signs. And we are, you know, like we are social creatures by nature, because we are. There are very few of us. We may not like people. You know, I hear people saying I'm like that all the time. I just don't really like people sometimes. But unfortunately, there is nobody that can just go through this world and not communicate with anybody. So we are social creatures by nature. We communicate all day, every second of our lives, unless we are asleep. And there are 5 types of communication that we use. First type is verbal communication, which occurs when we engage in speaking with others. It can be a face-to-face conversation over the phone, via Skype or Zoom, etc. Some verbal engagements are informal, such as chatting with a friend over coffee or in the office kitchen, while others are more formal, such as a scheduled meeting. Number 2, and these are in no order, this is just the way I put them on my slides. Number 2 is nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication includes facial expressions, posture, eye contact, you know, hand movements, you know, touch forms of verbal communication. And if you look at the picture, we've all made those faces or something, but you know, in the day of social media, we now consider those emojis. Emojis are the most common form of nonverbal communication now. And then there's written communication. Written communication could be anything such as an email, a memo, a report, Facebook post, a tweet, a text, a contract, anything that comes with words. Homework, that's still a form of verbal communication, even though it's homework. Visual communication, these are memes, videos, images, infographics, motion graphics, interactive media, etc. These are anything that you can look at. You know, movies are a form of visual communication. Commercials, you know, advertisements, things like that. If you look at the picture on the left at the bottom, those are all forms of visual communication. You know, you have graphs, you have signs over here, cameras, pictures, you know, drawings, TV ads, videos, all of those are different forms of visual communication. And then last, we have listening. Listening is the process of taking in, remembering, and responding to what your conversation partner is saying. And the best form of listening that there is, is active listening, which, you know, we have to be taught. Just like I said last week, professionalism has to be taught. So does active listening. We listen, but just because we're listening doesn't necessarily mean we're hearing. I have selective hearing. Most common types of communication today are verbal, visual, and written. And as we have become a society that relies heavily on the internet, we have become more visual and social learners, with auditory and tactile learning following closely behind. And these are different learning styles, which I'll hear coming up, I think next month. I'm doing a presentation on the different learning styles. Visual is you have to be able to see. You learn best by seeing. Social, you learn best by interacting with people. Social goes hand in hand with auditory and tactile. Auditory, you only have to hear something. It doesn't mean you don't have to see it and you don't have to interact with others, but you hear more. Just, you know, people can just give you verbal instructions and you can do something. And then tactile is hands-on. They call it tactile or tactile kinesthetic. Hands-on, you have to be touching something in order to learn best. We all can learn with the different, there started out being 5 methods of learning. Now I think I've seen like 10 as people, you know, work on PhDs and come up with more learning styles educationally and things like that. But visual, auditory, and tactile are the primary 3 that have always been on the list. And so we rely on emails, texts, and videos more now than ever to deliver information, interact with others, as well as when purchasing goods and services. There's hardly anything that can't be done on the internet now. So as we think about forms of communication, verbal, visual, and written seem to be the biggest 3. Doesn't mean that the other ones aren't used. We're going to always listen. We're going to always write verbal communication, once again, emojis. But verbal, visual, and written, and the reason I didn't put non-verbal on here is because I'm talking about us as people. An emoji is fine, but no. It is a common type of communication, but I'm talking about when we're actually conversing with somebody, the forms that we use in interacting and communicating are verbal, visual, and written. Verbal communication is primarily a soft skill that leads to a hard skill. And remember, a soft skill is something that I said is really not so much measurable. Soft skills are qualitative skills. Hard skills are things that are measurable. So when you think of verbal communication, it is initially a soft skill, but as with anything, you can measure. You know, when you start talking about jobs and things and how jobs evaluate employees, they have to find something to measure. So they will, you know, if your job, it requires you speaking, you know, television, journalists, you know, things like that, it becomes a hard skill because those are things they evaluate you on. So verbal communication, that's an effective verbal communication encompasses how one gives and receives information. It works hand in hand with listening and nonverbal communication. As I said, they all work together. One of the most underskills utilized is verbal communication. To be honest, all communication skills are underdeveloped. We're going to get to that later though. And then verbal communication is best used for adhering to the auditory learning style for those who learn that way best. Auditory means, once again, somebody is speaking to you, you're hearing instructions, things like that. So they go hand in hand. Professionally, you want to use verbal communication when you're delivering important information on the job. Remember, this presentation is about the best ways to relay messages better than over other ways. So this is, you know, I'm breaking down, you know, what to do professionally with verbal communication. So you use verbal communication when delivering important information on the job, that is speaking with customers or clients or employees, providing employee feedback, delivering very important job or role change information, terminating an employee or disciplining an employee or employees, etc. Personally, like I said, there will be some that I will, you know, have personal and relationship information in. You'll use verbal communication in daily, you know, when you're interacting with anybody on a regular basis, daily, all day, every day, delivering important information and handling conflict. However, there are things that you should not do with verbal communication. And that is, you should never fail to understand that verbal communication is best. Regardless to the other forms of communication, verbal communication is what we do best. We all are taught how to talk, you know, vocabulary, all of that is to teach us how to verbally communicate and talk with other people. And the other methods are used depending on the situation. But professionally, verbal communication is always best. With that being said, do not speak unprofessionally or be disrespectful to anybody, regardless to how they're being with you. And once again, I'm someone that when I do my presentations, I learn from them as well. People will, for lack of a better phrase, pluck your nerves. But professionally, you just have to learn how to enter woosah and let that go, because you can lose your job just for any reason now. Do not fail to understand your audience and what you can and cannot say to them. Stray away from using sanity. It doesn't matter if you know people. You have to know who your audience is to know to be, you know, what verbiage you should and shouldn't use. I mean, and when I say stray away from using slang and profanity definitely, but there are some times when you're interacting with people that, especially when you're dealing with kids, you have to be able to approach them on their level. So when I'm saying stray away from using slang, a lot of times that's going to be when you're talking to adults. But when you're in a situation where you deal with kids all day, sometimes slang does help because you have to meet them where they are. You can't, you know, a lot of times people are, everybody, she's a little suchy much. You know, a lot of times that's when you're allowing your educational attainment to overspeak for you, and a lot of people will catch offense to that. So sometimes you have to meet people where they are. Different roles, you have to be able to jump in and out of different roles. And you have to know your audience and know what words and, you know, what verbiage you can and can't use. Do not speak in monotone language when addressing groups of people. It is very boring and you will put them to sleep. That's monotone language. And there are some people that will, you know, and if for whatever reason they don't like public speaking. Like I said, I'm really not one, but these are fun to me. But some people that don't like public speaking, really nervous, really scared, they will speak in monotone language, and that is the first way to lose your audience. And then do not use a conference call to deliver information that may affect someone's livelihood. If you have to, at least give the employees the respect of seeing your face while delivering bad news. I myself have been a victim of a conference call that told me that I was losing my job. It's first of all, to hear that you're being terminated for something that you did not do, you know, layoffs, however you want to put them, furloughs, however you want to pull them, they all result in, they all result in you not clocking in. So when you're delivering that type of information, be cognizant of people's well-being. You know, treat people how you want to be treated. Nobody wants to receive a phone call. You know, I was talking to my husband the other day. There's a player that played for the Connecticut Sun in the WNBA. And if anybody watched the Sun, was one of the teams that went to the WNBA championship game. They played against the Washington Mystics. Ariel went to Duncanville. They played against Washington and lost, but during the offseason, the Connecticut Sun basically scrubbed their roster, which I thought was crazy, because these are the girls that got you to the national championship. Why would you get rid of them? But it was a money thing. But one of the players, they didn't give the respect to her to call her and let her know that she was losing her job. She found out on Twitter that she was truly had a problem with it, as she should have. Respect people enough that if you're going to terminate them or transfer them, or in the course of professional sports, trade them to other teams, give them the respect of doing that. Because how would you feel if somebody called you or sent you an email or sent you a tweet, told you that those things, one of those things were getting ready to happen to you? So don't do that. That's just what I call bad business. So if something like that is going on and you're in a position of leadership, give those people whose livelihood's going to be affected or their life is just going to change in some form the respect of not emailing them, texting them. I know a bad form now is emailing and texting, terminations. No, that's fear. And if you're in a leadership position and you're afraid of having to do your job duties, you don't need to be in that position. Treat people the way that you would like to be treated. Visual communication, which is also another soft skill that leads to a hard skill, depending on what your job title is. Visual communication, that's the practice of graphically representing information to efficiently, effectively create meaning. Works hand in hand with verbal and written communication. It enhances the understanding of the information being delivered. A lot of times, just like you guys see me, I have the left side with my written communication, right side with visual communication. They work together that you just can't, especially teaching online, you just can't put a bunch of words on a page. That is the quick way for your students to glaze over. Use videos, use graphics, use things that move, animated things that move across the screen. Use pictures, anything that you use to enhance those words visually, that enhances learning. It's a quicker way to learn. So in the professional world, you would best use visual communication professionally for training. You'll see a lot of companies now are using videos and interactive videos to train their employees. Advertising, that's all advertising is about, except for written and radio advertising, of course. But print ads and commercials, all of that stuff is to catch your attention and teach you what the topic is going on with the ad. It's also used for driving home points and adhering to the visual learning style for those who learn that way best. If you are a visual learner, you want pictures, you want videos, you want me over here with my hands, you want something other than words. There are people, textbooks, that's why textbooks have pictures in them. That's why the pictures are, have colors. And sometimes if you're using online ebooks or e-text, you'll see videos, you'll see animation. All of that stuff is to enhance learning. Personally, visual communication is used to traverse phone, finding information. Hey, Siri. Everybody has, what is it for Androids is Katana, right? So, there are just all types of visual and communication, apps, maps, all of that stuff. All of that's visual communication, even though it's used for various things. Even with streets, you go out on the street, you have street lights. All of those are communicating with you. Signs tell you where to go. All of that kind of stuff is visual communication. If you're learning how to drive, you need to master visual communication. Relationship-wise, delivering important and non-important information. Excuse me, but you must know what not to deliver visual. Relationship-wise, I'm gonna touch on that like with personally, but even with visual communication, there's just some things you shouldn't do, professionally and personally. And those are, this is just a small list, not a whole list. What not to do with visual communication. Do not, once again, fail to understand who your audience is and how to address them. Once again, how you deal with kids, and even with kids, you have little, elementary level, you have junior high level, you have high school level. You have to know your audience. What words and, verbiage words, same thing. What you can and cannot use, what you can and cannot say, you don't speak below them. Approach them where they are. Be sensitive to societal times when using graphics and images. Do not use images with racist undertones or that depict violence of any kind. I will say this, unfortunately, we live in a society that allows people to pretty much do what they want within reason. But when you're doing, unless you're in a group that condones that type of stuff, and unfortunately they are out there, for the most part, you will not post any pictures or videos or things that portray and advocate for, racism and prejudice and all that type of stuff, and especially not violence. That's just, first of all, remember when we talked about branding with professionalism and having your online, your different online sites, personal pages and professional pages. You don't want your name tied to that type of stuff. Branding in this day and time where everything is pretty much done online, having your name tied to something like that is a career killer. So, no. Seeing just a visual graphic with no explanation, it could be interpreted completely wrong. So just like I have my words, I have my pictures, when you're sending stuff out to people, unless, you won't send a visual image with a contract, let's apply some common sense. But when you're like, if you send an email out, or like with me, when I'm dealing with my basketball players and I send stuff to the parents, I'm going to send stuff and I'm going to send, it's going to have a little word art, it might have a little picture. I'm trying to convey a message, but I also trying to adhere to different learning styles. And I'm just not going to send a picture that doesn't have an explanation behind it. So, unless there are times when you will do that, but very few. But just don't send a visual graphic with no explanation, because that's the quickest way. Well, what does this mean? A lot of times you hear that. What does this mean? Do not use a graphic I'm sorry, I was trying to figure out how to say this yesterday, and this is the best that I could get it to where it made sense. Don't not use a graphic if it could help to explain the information better. And always remember that people learn and comprehend information differently due to different learning styles. So if you can, there are, can read, but in order to just not have words, and in order to catch the attention of your auditory or visual learners, make sure there's a video attached to it. Make sure there's a picture attached to it. You want to try to, once again, meet people where they are. Everybody does not learn the best. You'll hear and read where you can teach people to learn any kind of way. You actually can do that. But everybody has a preferred learning style. I'm tactile. I want to have something in my hand, which is weird because I teach online. So I print off everything. So meet people where they are. Don't not use a graphic if you can to help people understand more. And then another thing, do not deliver detrimental or tragic information that affects someone's livelihood or notifies of a major change by showing just a video or picture to deliver that message. It is very insensitive and it is disrespectful. Don't send somebody a text in large letters, "You are fired." Don't send somebody a meme, "You are fired." Don't do that. It's wrong. It's wrong. Just don't. Like, you see movies and they'll say, just don't do that. Be respectful of people. That's another thing that we don't hardly do anymore. We become a society that degrade people, it causes people to do interesting things. Written communication, which is another soft skill that leads to a hard skill depending on I keep checking my clock, my timer, to make sure I'm not going up, I'm staying on track. Putting your thoughts into words is really what written communication is. These are emails, memos, texts, letters, notes, contracts, homework, whatever, writing on the blackboard. Those are all forms of written communication. It works hand in hand with all of the other four methods of communication. Once again, we communicate several different ways all the time. This is my hands. This is, nonverbal communication. I'm not listening because y'all are not talking to me, but you guys are listening to me. So I have verbal communication going. I'm speaking, social communication, visual communication here with my presentation, my slides. So all of the communications work hand in hand together. Knowing your audience is very important. Once again, having a vast vocabulary and writing skills enhances how well one can communicate, but it also helps in being able to adjust to different roles. Once again, when we communicate, we have our professional friends, we have our at-home friends. When you enhance your vocabulary, you learn to go in and out of those different roles almost I can't even remember the word I'm trying to find, but it's like it's seamless. That's the word I'm looking for. It's seamless. I can go from being Dr. King or Professor King to just Bree, and there is nothing, I don't have to stop and think. I can just transition into those roles. So when you have a vast vocabulary, you can do that. I can talk over here with my girls, but I can also talk over here with my coworkers. When you enhance your vocabulary, you can do that. And once again, it also shows you those who do not have an enhanced vocabulary. And so I always tell people, if any given time, always learn a new word every day. It's to your benefit. But written communication is best used for professionally, job offers. Always deliver a job offer in writing. Professionally is, because when people do things verbally, sometimes it's my word against yours. So things like job offers should always be delivered in writing. Delivering important, confidential, and time-sensitive information in writing. When you make a sale, unless you're actually, and actually we can't say unless, say you go to Best Buy and you want to buy a computer and they give you an offer for that computer, if you will, for a price. You want them to put that in writing, because if they just tell you verbally, what that quote is for the price of that computer or that refrigerator or that washing machine, and then you go back and say, well, he told me they told you it was $500, and you look and learn that it's actually $2,000. Well, if you didn't get that in writing, it's your word against theirs. But if they tell you it's $500 for a $2,000 washing machine and they put it in writing, most often, if they want to keep their good name and brand, they will honor that $500 quote in writing. So always, when you're making a sale or somebody's making a sale to you, put that in writing, so it doesn't become a he say, she say situation. Writing when you're handling conflict, and this, if work at a company that does 3-tier, you have verbal, written, and termination. When you're handling conflict on the job, you always want to document that. And that's another topic for another time, but document in writing when you're dealing with situations of conflict. Permanent record of ideas. This could be anything. Once again, a contract. This can be a wedding license, birth certificate. Those are all permanent records of ideas. You want those in writing. Incidents, same thing as conflict. You want those documented. Date, time, who was there, when it happened, all that type of stuff. Proposals and other facts. Proposals can be not wedding proposals. These are like, say you're an architect and you're building a house and you're trying to win a bid. You will come up with a proposal of what services you can offer and a price. It's all those type of things. Proposals for, a concert, how you want to design a stage. Proposals can be anything. Distribute information to a large group of people. That goes back to, once again, also verbal communication. When you're talking to a large group of people, especially when you're telling them, I'm going to do this, you're committing to doing something, put that in writing. Talking to a large group of people, this goes hand in hand with verbal communication. Put your words in writing. Let them know you mean what you say, and you're going to say what you said you're going to do. Personally, written communication, that's quick notes to friends and families, reminders. That can be a plethora of things. Sitting in the living room having a conversation. Nope, that's verbal. Written communication is like leaving a message on the refrigerator reminder, soccer at 6. We have a game at Saturday at 9 o'clock. Written communication can be anything. Love you, leaving a little message in your child's lunchbox or whatever, letting them know, mom loves you, dad loves you. Those are all forms of written communication. And then relationship-wise, delivering important and non-important information. But once again, you must know what not to deliver in writing. And that comes with, once again, not failing to do not fail to understand your audience. I've gone over this, so you know what I mean. Do not write or type when you're angry. Don't email, don't text, don't do anything. If you're a teacher and in class and a student is annoying you, don't respond until you've entered woosah. That tone will flow right through your fingers. And I've been guilty of it sometimes with my parents. They know when I'm mad. They'll call me, Coach Bree, you okay? I'm like, yeah, but y'all made me mad. They don't do anything when you're upset. Don't drive when you're upset. Don't do anything when you're upset. Allow yourself to calm down, because it brings a different moment. Don't send written communication when you're angry. That tone of anger will come right through. Do not fail to edit your writing, edit your posts and things for writing mechanics. Writing mechanics are correct spelling, proper punctuation, use of correct language used in the right way. It's so funny to see people use big words, but that big word is used completely wrong, incorrectly. So even when, now granted, with the age of the internet, social media, all of that, yes, we have our acronyms, you have social media jargon, all of that's fine. But when I tell people all the time, the worst thing you could do is try to get on social media and, create a meme or create a post, and you're trying to degrade somebody or belittle somebody. And the first thing you do is misspell something in that post. It says more about you than it does the person you're trying to degrade and belittle. So writing mechanics, it doesn't take but a few seconds to make sure your words are spelled correctly. Your sentences have proper punctuation, you are using correct language, and that language is used in the right way. If you don't learn anything else about yourself, what I tell you last week with professionalism, people listen and look before they do anything else where you're concerned. Don't open your mouth and validate and give them any reason to believe or validate the things that they're thinking about you. Bring something different. Do not deliver detrimental or tragic information that affects someone's livelihood or notifies of a major change in an email or text. Remember the whole Connecticut Sun thing. It is insensitive and it's disrespectful. We want to continue to treat people the way we want to be treated, and that cannot be instilled enough. I believe we should instill that in children like we do everything else. Treat people want to be treated, and when it comes to communication, written communication tends to be, depending on what you're doing, the worst form. And a lot of times it's the worst form when you're delivering tragic or detrimental information. Don't ever, now, and I will say this, there are times when you can't. Say somebody's in the military, you can't get a hold of them. The only way that you can, get a hold of them is to send a message through the military office. I don't know how that works, but you know what I'm saying. There are times that has to happen. But those are extenuating circumstances. Remember the whole bell curve? You're going to have outlying situations where that is the only thing you can do. But in a bell curve, you have that this is the average situation. And in the average situation, barring any unforeseen circumstances, you will not want to send an email or a text and tell someone their mom died. You don't want to send an email and text and say, hey, your baby just got hit by a car. You don't want to do that, because you wouldn't want anybody to do that to you. So think about how you want things done to yourself and use that. How would you deliver certain messages for you? Do that. It's just, we got to get away from being so insensitive and so disrespectful and degrade, not degrading people just because it's fun. Or, we have reality shows that's doing it. Reality shows do it for ratings. The more people watch, and they've learned that drama brings attention, it brings ratings. But in real life, drama causes problems and destroys relationships. And it really does on TV as well. But in real life, be respectful of people and who they are. Then how do you develop your communication skills? I'll go professional development. Remember, I'm talking professional this time. So it's all professional development is a way to improve and enhance on any skill that you have. And so these are a list of a minute number of websites that you can use. You have Udemy, which we learned about last week, Coursera, which is another website. And once again, most of these sites are free. But if for some of them like Coursera, the classes are free, but if you want the certification or the certificate to show that you completed, because some jobs required, then you would have to pay for the certificate. The Job Network, the Balanced Careers, Mind Tools is very good free site. It doesn't come with any certificates or anything, but you can learn almost anything when it comes to soft skills and hard skills, but a lot of soft skills on the Mind Tools website. I use that a lot. Skillsoft is another one. Then, as I was talking last week with the Allison website, which is the site for getting professional development for the state of Texas, other state and government unemployment websites. They all have a section on there to improve on your communication skills. And then once again, when I say we have to enhance our vocabulary, that's where dictionary.com and thesaurus.com comes in. And they are really basically the same site. Like if you go to dictionary.com and you look up at the top, you will see a tab for thesaurus. Click thesaurus and it's just going to take you to thesaurus.com. Thesaurus is going to have a tab for dictionary. Click dictionary, it's going to take you to dictionary.com. So use those two sites. When I write papers or, helping my daughter learn how to write, things I teach her, enhance your vocabulary. These are the two websites that you want to use. We know dictionary.com, that gives you the definitions of things, but thesaurus.com, that gives you the synonyms and homonyms. You may not always want to use the same word, but there are several different ways that you can take one word and use it. There are other words, so especially when you're writing papers, when it comes to school and things like that, use thesaurus.com. Don't always use the same word, even though you're saying the same thing, change up the word. You don't want to use, professional 25 different times in one paragraph. There are several different ways to say professional. So use dictionary.com and thesaurus.com to enhance your vocabulary. The dictionary.com, there's an app. They both come in an app format. And you can go in and set it up to where it sends you a new word every day to learn. Do that. It doesn't hurt to enhance your vocabulary. So these are all, this is, like I said, this is a small number of jobs. You can go on the internet and Google professional development skills for improving communication, and it will come up with a list, because that's pretty much what I did. Comes up with a list of websites and in written. You can click on like the images section of Google and it'll show you different forms. There's videos, there's pictures, there's written communication that you can print off or save or whatever to show you how to improve and enhance on your communication skills. Professionally develop always, even if you two ladies, professional develop at all times. And summary, we are doing good. There are 5 types of communication: verbal, nonverbal, written, visual, and listening. All are used in our everyday, in our day-to-day interactions with others, because we are social creatures by nature. Professionally, each form of communication has a preferred method of use when it comes to delivering certain types of information. Learn and know when to, and more importantly, when not to use when delivering certain types of information. I just spent a whole bunch of time on that, almost 40 minutes, not 40 minutes, 30 minutes discussing it, 20 something minutes. Yeah, I'll get it. Also, it did it again. I'm gonna have to get with my manager and figure out what happened. My thing disconnected. So hold on just a second, you guys. I was at the end and it disconnected. Chat box. Okay, everybody is still here. Okay, let me finish up this, but I'm not sure what happened there again. I'm gonna have to get with my boss and figure out what's going on there. Let me share a screen again. We were at the end. There we go. I'm gonna start with summary. Maybe y'all heard it, but I don't know. My screen completely, it's like I lost all of y'all and then it came back. So it said there are 5 types of communication: verbal, nonverbal, written, visual, and listening. They are all used in our day-to-day interactions with others. We are social creatures by nature. Professionally, each form of communication has a preferred method of use when it comes to, when it comes to delivering certain types of information. Learn how and know when to, and more importantly, when not to use the delivery method for delivering certain types of information. I apologize for that. Also, tailor your messages to the different learning styles of individuals. Combine communication methods. This is where I stopped before everything went haywire. Learn to, you got 5 communication, use them, in conjunction with each other to enhance that learning and meet people where they are. Learn, and you'll learn people's learning styles the more you interact with them, you'll learn how they learn best. And you just meet them where they are with your information when you relay information. Be respectful when interacting with others at all times, but especially verbally and visually. Even when you want to choke them, gotta love them. And professionally, don't allow somebody's, desire to not be professional and behave and act unprofessionally to cause you to step out of your professionalism. We talked about that last week. Make sure that written communication is edited for writing mechanics and tone. And then professionally develop your communication skills as it is one of the most underdeveloped talents that we possess, being that we use them 24/7, 365. There is, just like there's an art and professionalism has to be taught, communication skills have to be, to master them, we have to work on them and use them and learn every day. There's a way to do everything best, just like everybody has a preferred way of learning best. There are different ways that, we also have preferred ways that we like to communicate. We learned that, earlier with the data that I was showing up here with the quick data. I apologize. Most people said they like face-to-face learning, meaning that they don't like to use phone, don't like to use the phone, or don't like to text, or don't like to email. They just prefer face-to-face conversation. But also remember, they also feel that texts and memos, and this may or may not be the same people, but most people feel that texts and memos are also one of the worst ways to deliver information because, it may relay, the tone may be taken wrong. So it's a mastery of that. We have to enhance on our learning, and the only way to do that is to learn. So you have to professionally develop. Go to one of these websites and learn how to write better, learn how to write better, learn as far as communication, writing period. But with communication, learn how to actively listen. It's not just listening, it is actively listening. Learn how to use nonverbal communication, frowning and some of that, we relay a lot of information with just our looks, and I know I have them. They tell, I have them all the time. There are different ways you want to do things. Don't just rely on an emoji. Learn how to verbally communicate, learn how to talk with people. That goes hand in hand with enhancing your vocabulary. So every day do something new to enhance your not for your vocabulary, enhance your communication skills. Let me get back to where I am. That's the summary we just went through there. References are always a good educator, will always provide references so we are not plagiarizing people's information. And then, are there any questions? Do anybody have any questions for me today? Last week we had so many questions that y'all remember my presentation, that lets me know you guys are engaged, and that's fine. If you don't have any questions, that also means that I just gave you one heck of a presentation and you had no questions. Either way. Oh, and Afi, let me post a link for you. They are wanting us, and I'll send it to you in a text. They're wanting my presentation attendants to do a form to, to show how well you like the presentation. If there's anything that you want to hear or see as a topic, I'll send it to you, because when it disconnected, it went away and the link went away. I can't even paste it anymore. So I'll send it to you for me, please. But for the rest of you, please click on that link. And actually, while I'm sitting here, let me get a picture. I'm not finished. I'm just giving you guys time if you have questions or anything. But I'm trying to, I need to get a picture because I keep forgetting each week to take my picture. And I'm going to mess around and get in trouble. So there we go. Those are my 1, 2, 3, 4. I love y'all. Every week, y'all are consistently watching my presentations, and I appreciate it. I'm not about quantity. I'm about quality. I'll give 4 people the same love that I would give 4 million if they were watching it. I appreciate you guys, and I'm gonna love you more because you took the time to watch it. So I don't see any questions yet. I'll minimize the chat box. If you have it, it'll pop up on my screen. Then next week, we're working on time management, and I actually did this right off in this time frame because school's getting ready to start, you know, with the kids, especially with the older kids, learning how to master your time. So, and then remember I was telling you guys about the Thursday Zooms. I kind of screwed up my schedule this month, and so today's was on Wednesday, but the next at noon, starting in September. I said this month, starting in September, my Zooms are going to Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Watch it, come watch it. If not, I'll post the link afterwards so you can watch it when you can. But next Thursday at noon, mastering time management. This is, I don't care what you do, what field you work in, whether you're a teenager or an adult. If you do not learn how to master your time, you're going to have an awful time traversing through life. So we're doing mastering time management. Especially for my seniors that are on here. If y'all know anybody that are going to be seniors, because going to college, one thing you have to learn how to do is master. Next week's presentation. Uh-oh, I see a question. How does one respond when their communication was missing? Some questions, Sister Thompson. A lot of times, once again, you have to stay professional. And I've been guilty of this. My basketball parents will tell you more than anybody. They'll send something, they'll be, what is wrong with you? And a lot of times I'm not even trying to be mean. It's just that I may have been tired. So the message was misinterpreted. You know, me and Afi fight a lot, love each other, but we do, you know, but so there are times that when you may send an email, may send a text, even verbally communicate, it's misinterpreted, you know, or as we would commonly say, taken the wrong way. You have to stay professionally, and if at all possible, call them. If they're in the same building with you, go find where they are and, hey, let's come talk for a minute because I don't think you understood it or you may have misinterpreted what I wanted to say. Get with those people. If you're there face-to-face, verbal communication. If you're not face-to-face, pick up the phone and call them. And sometimes it may be a text depending on what's going on. FaceTime, do something where you are, I would say, first verbally speaking with them. You know, and that's just to clear the air, even if you're mad at each other. So, you know, if you can't be mad at people and still be friends or still be in a relationship or still be co-workers without a bunch of, you know, resonating drama afterwards, then that's immaturity and unprofessionalism. But if at all possible, talk. You know, even you may have to talk through text, but that may require you doing some extra typing, you know, but I would initially first say, call them or go find where they are, go to them, get in your car and go to their house or whatever. You may have to talk through the door. You know, they don't want you in there because they're mad at you. Okay. But talk to them, tell them, let them know, hey, this is not what I meant, or hey, that was what I meant, you know, but if it's misinterpreted, it's up to you to make that right. You know, don't let she'll figure it out. She know what I said. No, that's where problems and, you know, just other underlying drama starts. So always try to, if it's misinterpreted, and you can always tell if something was taken the wrong way because of the way people respond, even if it's at work. You know, bosses know when their emails and memos are taken the wrong way because it's the way, you know, you hear the rumors and you hear, I can't believe he's, you know, such as, you have to make things right. You know, so communicate, verbal communication, whether it's face-to-face, FaceTime, phone call, you know, at the very last result, you know, send a text if there's no other way, or just wait till later. I wouldn't even say send a text. Wait till later when you've had time to enter woosah and you've had time, or that person, you know, whatever's going on, you know, somebody may be at work and can't talk on the phone at that time. So just let a little time pass to where you two can come together, be it on the phone or in person, and talk. Any other questions? Y'all always present me with some really good questions, and I like it. It's good. How much time do we have left? We got about 11 minutes left, 11 minutes and 21 seconds. As always, if you need to contact me, 800-EDUCATOR Bridget at ticommunities.com. If you haven't already and want to, like my work Facebook page is facebook.com/Dr. Bridget M. King, EDD. It's pretty much the same stuff. You know, I tend to post stuff on both pages, but there are some residents and stuff that have liked my professional page that I, you know, not unfortunately, but we're not friends, and that's not where that relationship is going. It's strictly professional. So you're not missing anything, not liking my or friending me on this page if you're on my personal page, because I pretty much post the same stuff on both, and that's done for a reason. So management, I'm looking for books. If you have books that you don't mind donating, we're having here, I'm not exactly sure how it's gonna play out with COVID, but we're doing a back to school bash over here on the 21st. And I am looking for books that have not been, you know, not drawn all in, you know, just gently worn and torn. If you have them and want to donate them, and we're talking about more for kids, you know, don't send me a thesaurus or a dictionary or an encyclopedia, you know, like kids books are, oh cool, thanks, Afy. I get them and I'll come between, you know, I'll come to your house or whatever, or we can meet somewhere or whatever and get them. But trying to just find books for the kids, and I'll pick them up. I have to have them at the office by the 19th. We're trying to get them all collected by the 19th and get them for the kids, and, you know, just things that we're trying to do for the kids over here. You know, some of them already gone back to school. Duncanville doesn't back into that. Who makes the decision of what form of communication will be used between two people? Whoever communicates first. Sometimes it can be worked out. I mean, for some people, you know, if you want to do right by that person, you'll ask them, you know, what form of communication do you prefer best? Like I asked you yesterday, you know, what form do you like best? Some people don't like talking on the phone. Unfortunately, they have to, you know, to conduct business and things like that. But there are some people, like in my quick data, most people prefer face-to-face conversation, but there are just really some people that don't like talking to people on the phone, and that's fine. But you always have to know that there are times that you're going to get a text message, you know, just because. But who makes that decision a lot of times is whoever initiates that communication first. And sometimes you have to tell people there may be times I'm going to send you a text or I'm going to send you a voicemail. Voicemail is another form of verbal communication. You know, I'm good at sending short voicemail phones, recorded messages. You know, those are all forms of communication. So at the end of the day, it's really who initiates the communication first. On the job, I will say it's the one that's going to be able to deliver certain information that, you know, especially employers and leaders know it's going to incite a certain behavior, and they're delivering some information they know the employees are not going to like. So the first thing they'll want to do is send a text or a memo. All of that is done to insulate what's coming behind it. So on the job, a lot of times you're going to see written communication, you know, and once again, it's a CYA type thing. You know, they want to put stuff in writing just because when you're talking about, you know, personal relationships and friends and stuff like that, the more verbal communication you can have, the better. And that's going to also come into play next month. I'm doing a presentation on internet safety and security for kids, for, you know, kids at all levels, high school, junior high, whatever, and parents, because I'm focusing on, you know, we have a lot of kids out in this area that are missing because of people they have met on the internet. And so I want to address, you know, how does it become so easy for someone to talk your child that you've never laid eyes on them, have really never held a conversation with them for some of them. But these kids are running away from home just because they texted somebody several times, you know. So, you know, communication, you know, and so it's going to be one for next month. I think it is. I was looking at the schedule yesterday, but good question. And in the workplace, there are some people who refuse to use certain methods of communication. How do you stress the importance of versatility to them? I'll say this, and it's what I do. If you want somebody to do something a certain way, you do that. Like I tell people all the time, when I don't want certain behaviors, I show and act in the behavior that I'm looking for, and I ignore the ones I'm not. You know, that works well with conditioning kids. You don't want kids to do something, stop responding to them doing it the way you don't, and respond when they do it the way you want it done. Same thing with people when it comes to communication. They don't like to text. Unfortunately, there are some things you have to do even though you don't want to. So if they don't want to text you, respond with a text. They may pick up on it, they may not. And sometimes you have to tell them, look, I'm doing this for a reason. You know, I can't always talk to you face to face. Maybe the preferred method, but we may not always be able to talk face to face. But I also need to be able to know that this information that I'm sending you is getting to you, or you're getting my communication. You know, so it's one of those conditioning, what they call positive reinforcement. Reward what you want and ignore what you don't. Same way when it comes with communication. Training. You have to train them the way you want to. And there are some people that refuse. You know, I have people that were, you know, I know people that don't like cell phones. It's hard to communicate with them because unless you go over to their house, how do you talk to them? You know, so sometimes you just have to let people know there are times that I'm going to have to text you. There are times that I'm going to have to email you. There are times that I can come over, you know, may or may not always be, but those are people you have to, what they call, hold their hands a little bit, hand holding, and once again, reinforce what you want and ignore what you don't. It's kind of, that's a really good way of positive reinforcement and conditioning people to do what you want to do. Me, I saw it said mute, but it was doing something weird. But we've actually run out of time, so I'm going to end this now. My internet is buffering again, and once again, I'll have this link posted for y'all when y'all want to watch it at your own, you know, at your own time and everything. Next week, Mastering Time Management, Thursday at noon on Zoom. Talk to you guys later. Bye. It's disconnecting on you.